punishment.
Yes, sir. We are live on YouTube. Hello, everybody out there for episode 228, which is a super cool episode, honestly. You can see on the cameras a face from before, from yesteryear. It was 2022 when you were here. I didn't know that, right? This is Miss Cirilla Purnell, and we have a super cool announcement. So if you're finding us for the first time on this platform, YouTube, this is a YouTube Live before we turn the mics on for the podcast of Through a Therapist's Eyes that you'll find on Spotify, Apple iTunes, everywhere else that you go to get your podcasts. Isn't that what everyone says? Wherever you get your podcasts.
Exactly.
I think it's a funny thing that's now like part of normal conversation, isn't it?
That's exactly right.
Of course, this is Mr. John Pope, but we have a cool episode today on the show. I always like to say the date, too, and I'm going to get it right. 5/11/2023. Victoria's not here to correct me. I don't know what I'm going to do with that when we turn the live mics on. This is a cool episode because we are announcing the addition of... So, Metrolina Psychotherapy Associates is the parent company for Through a Therapist's Eyes, right? It's our live therapy practice in Mount Holly. And you've joined! Welcome!
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here.
Welcome.
Yeah, it's super cool because we have started a new line of business. What is our new line of business in dietetics? This is not live mics yet. So
that's not Dianetics, but not
Dianetics?
Dianetics. It's dietetics.
What is Dianetics?
Oh, it's L. Ron Hubbard in Scientology.
Can I just say I love your words?
Yes.
You know, we had a YouTube comment that was cool. We were interacting on the YouTube platform, and you had the word. What was the word? Concomitant. We were talking about the black hole.
Concomitant. Yeah.
Concomitant.
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
Well, it's with something. Yeah.
Concomitant is joined with something.
Two things that happen and they converge, and so you're able to. So in other words, you get something that's similar and it builds on something. It actually makes it stronger. And okay.
I love his words, Cirilla, but we did digress.
I'm glad to know how to actually pronounce that word properly. I've always said concomitant.
No.
Concomitant. Thank you.
Don't ask me to pronounce medicines. I can't do that.
Don't ask me to spell the word either. I need help on that. But what is Dietetic Services for the YouTube folks?
Dietetic Services, we support our clients in helping them to incorporate a healthy diet into their lives. And we help them to overcome whatever questions or understanding that they need to be able to eat the right foods and to support their health so that they can have vibrant health and wellness in their life.
Yeah, that's cool. Did you put a heart emoji on there, Neil? Somebody, maybe I can heart the emoji. I've got the YouTube Live on my phone, so I can track things through the show. Because, as always, this is, and thank you for that. We'll be talking more about that on the show coming up here when the hot mics come on for the show. But, this is a great way to contact with us, to interact with us. We turn the mics on for the YouTube Live at about 6:15. So we interact with you, get your comments, and that's kind of a cool way to go. So we are ready to roll, I think.
Ready?
Yep, ready?
3, 2, 1.
Hello, this is Through a Therapist's Eyes on May the 11th, 2023. So we have a special episode today where we get to introduce a whole new line of products for Metrolina Psychotherapy Associates. So this is episode 228, which we are going to be talking about nutrition, understanding nutrition therapy and dietetic services. So check these 3 questions out, and you'll think about this through the episode. What is your relationship with food? Very much a question that you might not really think about having a relationship with, but we will be talking about that. How can food help your therapy and mental health journey, right? And then this is the origination of my idea for this show in the first place, a thought that came from a therapy session. Treat your food as medicine, or someday you will treat your medicine like food. Have you ever heard that before?
No, but that's brilliant.
Have you ever heard that before, Sorrel?
I have.
Yeah, of course you have. Thought that you might. So, again, this is Through a Therapist's Eyes, where you get insights directly from a panel of therapists, and maybe possibly today, and who knows what we develop, a dietitian as we go in the future. Knowing is not the delivery of therapy services in any way. We have the YouTube lives out now. We're on Apple iTunes. Help us out by clicking the little bells, doing the little
5.
subscribes, hitting the 5s. What's the 5s?
Five
John?
5 stars.
This is John Pope, who's hanging
Hi.
out with us.
Hi, nice to be here.
And I'm going to introduce her more so in a bit, but this is Cirilla Purnell.
Hello.
We have a-
Thank you for having me.
Big introduction here today for you. So what else do I say? Contact at throughatherapist's.com is our website or web email to get up with us. The human emotional experience, which we endeavor to figure out together. So I haven't really talked about it on the show a lot, but Metrolina Psychotherapy is the parent company for Through a Therapist's Eyes, basically, right? So it's our real practice in the Mount Holly area that we have had open since 2010. So it's really been awesome to see clinicians come in and grow and offer awesome therapy services to, we're in a place called Gaston County in the Charlotte, Mecklenburg metropolitan.
In
Charlotte.
Lincoln County.
We
in
serve
Cleveland-
Lincoln, yeah,
Cleveland
Shelby.
County,
We get a lot of,
Yeah.
we pull from a lot of areas. But I was explaining that to help you understand that with Through a Therapist's Eyes, the parent company being Metrolina, that Miss Cirilla Purnell has joined the practice. I'm super excited about this. Welcome
Yay.
to Metrolina Psychotherapy Associates, Miss Cirilla Purnell.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, it's a whole new line of service for us. We have not done dietetic services, and we're going to jump into that so that we understand what people can benefit from by working with you. And off the get-go, I will say, I originally met you because I received your dietary services. I think I shared on the show last time you were here. Awesome. I learned, John, more about food than I thought I ever knew.
I can believe that.
I mean, for real.
I mean, I've been seeing you with these clear bottles with cucumbers in them and
Pineapple.
Pineapple and
More than one person's like
You're
looked
free.
down at my water like, is that pickles in your water?
That was a new one even for me.
Was it?
I was very impressed.
yeah.
Count on me. Hey, they're good for you. Pickles and the vinegar that's in the pickles is good for your digestion. It has micronutrients and all this kind of cool stuff, right?
Yes. And if you like it and it makes you want to drink more water, then why
Dude, I
not?
am pounding water now. It's so awesome. But listen to this lady. Okay, so she's a registered dietitian who has had several different jobs. I actually went through the introduction of last time, and I thought I'm just going to pop that on there because now we have a different introduction because you're one of us. How cool is that? So, master's degree in public health and nutrition from UNC Chapel Hill. Although she's a UNC person, that's kind of a little bit of a detriment, but we won't hold that against her. An integrated approach supporting the health of the mind and the body to promote optimal health and well-being. She uses mindfulness practices to establish a better relationship with food. Again, the question for our show, right? What is your relationship with food? That's something I really want you to be thinking about as it relates especially to your feelings and emotions and all that kind of stuff. But I do digress. She encourages positive body awareness and instills a balanced approach to nourishing your body and the brain. John, if you Google this girl, you will find her attached to several, or at least a few, right? Like, you've been involved in studies and, like, legit
Oh,
research.
I
And,
have. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes,
they
I
just
have.
you should see on the cameras. They just connected on
These
this weird
guys-
research stuff.
So you've participated with writing papers and all of that?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
From start to finish, I've been on several different research projects, and
Oh my goodness, I'm
Yes.
impressed. I'm
it's
impressed.
been fun.
You turn your head so far away from the microphone sometimes it makes me giggly. Listen, I have had
sorry.
8 for therapy today, and I'm losing my mind at moments. So we bust John's chops. So.
All the time. I kind of drop off at the very end sometimes.
So how many research projects have you been a part of? Do you know offhand?
3.
Like 3?
I've
Yeah. Very
been,
cool.
I have been a part of, but not from start to finish.
And so whatever happened with the book you were writing? What's the update there?
Oh well, that's
You were
we can-
involved in a writing project?
yes, I was involved in a writing project,
Okay.
but
That's done different things. Okay.
yes, it has. Sorry.
And lastly, her interests really are in herbal medicine, yoga, and meditation, while promoting people's success with dietary needs. That is really cool stuff, honestly. I got to tell you, it is impressive to me when I find people that really care about what they do and are passionate about what they do. And I can tell you, as somebody who's received your services, I am super, super, super excited about being able to offer dietetic services to Gaston County with you. It's going to be awesome.
Well, he's a true believer now.
I am.
And yeah,
100%.
I mean, because you used her services and it was very effective.
And what's funny is I didn't know. Did you know, John, what dietitians do, like in kind of comparison to mental health, in what sort of in
There's
line
some
or in parallel
similar
with what we do?
in terms of the mindfulness and the wellness, and that's sort of big in the counseling field or mental health counseling.
Yeah, I'm even
is
thinking just
wellness.
on a basic level. I didn't know that you can have weekly meetings or weekly sessions.
No, I didn't know
weekly-
that,
So-
or insurance or anything like that.
Right. I feel like this is sort of a new thing. And I know you and I have talked about it, sort of, developing that. And I want people listening to this to understand, like, you are really about wellness, and that is about nutrition. But your sessions, like, you develop a weekly relationship with people to really help them with physical goals through nutrition. That's kind of what I experienced. Does that sound in the ballpark?
That's exactly what we do.
Yeah.
And it can be as often or as infrequently as whatever serves the particular person. I have weekly sessions with some people and quarterly sessions with others. Everybody requires a different level of support.
So sometimes you'll meet quarterly with people? Okay.
Absolutely.
I imagine there's a lot of encouragement that goes in with your work to be able to help client. You call them patients or clients? Or?
I call them clients, but it depends on the setting. If it's more of a clinical setting, then they're patients.
So you in other words, let's say somebody gets down, they've been I guess struggling or with their eating or disordered eating, and you're being very helpful with them, and they hit a plateau or something in terms of weight loss or exercise, you're able to encourage them.
Yes, it's very much like being a coach. I mean, there's a lot of different aspects to what we do. Yes, we provide nutrition education and resources like that, and training in the area of actually
So you
the
help them
science of
apply it.
nutrition.
Yeah.
But we also have to provide encouragement and support emotionally and mentally as well.
You know, and I kind of think that sometimes we get we get this idea in our minds that if you just provide the information, but there's a lot more to it than that, isn't it? In terms of saying, how are we going to do this over a period of time, and how do we change one's...
Well, look, we have
Yes.
science on this, right? We've researched
Yeah.
this. We know that one of the most effective components of a therapy experience is the relationship dynamics, right? That you get with your therapist.
Right.
And that's the same thing with a coach, I suspect. That's the same thing with a dietitian, as I suspect, right? So that your relationship
I think it's very important. Yeah.
it's crucial to have a good relationship with the person that you're working with. It's part of the art of what we do, and in a dietary way, it totally enables people with what your goals are. That's what I've begun to experience. Is that landing in the ballpark?
Yes, I mean the relationship is where the art form aspect of it comes in.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly there's creating the plan, a personalized plan, and monitoring that plan and changing the plan as necessary. But then there is the relationship aspect as well, and helping them to create thought patterns that lead to a healthy relationship with food.
Okay. Now, I think you're you like to practice yoga, and so you're into that as well, which I think is very healthy. So
Yes.
my question for you on that is that is part of the area of being a dietitian or a nutritionist also aspect in terms of exercise and
Oh, absolutely.
yeah.
It's a combination. They have to be together to really have the optimal well-being that people wellness
so
and
it's really
vibrant
a wholeness,
health.
It's very wholeness oriented.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is. Mm-hmm.
Well, we did a show a couple years ago, I think I recall, where we were looking at exercise's impact on mental health, right?
Exactly.
And part of that conversation really taught me how around the world, right? Because we have listeners around the world, there is an experience in the medical community that is what's called a first line response when you come into your doctor around the world and you say, oh, I have this issue, that issue, this complaint, this trouble. And the first thing they go to is, okay, well, John, what's your exercise plan? What are you doing? Moving your body.
Every day for me.
You are my hero.
Yeah.
I will say. And in the States, our first line is pills, right? So, and having met you, Cirilla, I've actually added in my mind like a first line response to medical realities still might very well be exercise. And the second line, and I wonder, curious around the world, how much they've realized in the medical community that nutrition really is
Definitely.
the second line, if you will, possibly the first line, I'm sure you might think. And then we can get on to medical interventions with pills and medications and even herbal supplements and all the whatevers and such, right? Is that, what do you think about that, Cirilla? How do you experience that?
Well, I think that it's all part of a comprehensive approach.
Yeah.
And traditionally, it has been therapy and medication, but more and more nutrition services and nutrition support are being integrated into this comprehensive support for our clients, our patients, and in supporting their mental health. So, really, dietitians working with the healthcare team to ensure that that nutrition support is going to be there as part of a holistic approach for a client to support them in their mental health journey.
And see, so let's circle back because I want to get to know you or have folks get to know you a little bit better and more and whatnot. But so we'll circle back. But let's stay here for a second because that integrated reality to care. I mean, people hear that. You know, we're going to do integrated care. We have comprehensive services. We work all together and all. I just want to pause and see like the integrative nature of dietetic services. I feel like it's still kind of new, and by new I mean
Very.
okay. You say very new.
Yes. In mental health.
In the mental health arena for sure, but I think also in the medical arena. 50 years ago, I don't think that we had much. Is what I suspect, right? 100 years,
Well,
we don't have anything.
I mean, I don't know. I think that nutrition has been recognized in cardiovascular disease and in management of dialysis patients and in support of digestive problems and things like that for a longer time. But I'm just, the list goes on and on about nutrition related conditions that can be have been supported. I think, especially when biochemical mechanisms are involved in helping someone to survive.
Absolutely.
But I mean, in mental health, this is cutting edge stuff.
Yeah.
Being able to integrate nutrition services to support a patient. And the research is really showing positive results in this area.
So tell us more about integration with that. How is this like you've been doing this for a minute. You've been doing this for a little while. How have you seen the integrative reality, I guess specifically with mental health, but also to a certain extent healthcare as well? Like I think we do a good job of integrating exercise into your healthcare. And now we're really catching on to integrating more so your diet and nutrition. Again, what is the phrase? Like treat your food as medicine, or someday you'll treat your medicine like food. That's a concept that is really seems integrative to me. So how have you seen that grow or change or develop
Over
in the last
years?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I mean, to the point where it's so much more exciting to be a dietitian now, coming from my mindset in the way that things have been bridged between the two worlds. Or, I mean, not really, I guess, is that right to say the two worlds?
Probably.
Yeah. And now now there's a bridge and we can all communicate, and there's more networking and resources to be able to do that and communicate. And nutrition is a valuable part of the team and becoming more and more so.
I'll tell you, for instance, one of the things that I learned among the many when I was working with you professionally, John, I literally did I was so proud of this, Mr. Academia over there, right? When I was in high school, I wrote this. You remember this, Cirilla? I wrote this paper. I think I told you about it. About America's $1 million unnecessary industry or something. You remember when? Yeah.
The supplement industry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm like, oh no.
This just you should see, you just saw in the cameras her reaction, right? Like, so I was so proud of this article, thinking that I had just made this argument and it was so cool, and I wrote it up. I got an A on the paper, by the way. Thank you, teacher. He was a guy. What was his name? Doesn't matter, but I'm not going to pull it
So
back.
your argument was
It's a waste
it's a waste
to do all these nutrients and vitamins and all this kind of stuff and whatever.
or vitamins.
Vitamins, yes. So I was speaking with Cirilla. She was working with me, trying to help me figure stuff out. Which you had a challenge. You had a big challenge. But she began talking about the supplements and whatever that are appropriate for. By the way, I did schedule my doctor's appointment for getting the cholesterol checked. It took me a while. Dr. O'Leary's going to help me out. I finally am going back. I was stunned, is the point, about how, like, I was saying this and I was skeptical, trying to inquire. And you know what she said to me? She was like, Chris, you're so awesome the way you did it, right? She's like, Chris, so when you think of metabolic changes in your body and you take, like, aspirin or, like medications that are prescribed, antibiotics, whatever, like, that's doing metabolic change in your body, right? And I'm like, well, yeah, that's the point. And she's like, well, what do you think all of these supplements do when they're doing changes in your body when we combine turmeric or, vitamin D or, different stuff, right?
Right.
And I was like, maybe I'm slow up on the intake, John, but this like was amazing to me.
So it just blew your mind.
It did.
Yeah.
It did. So that all of this dietetic knowledge that you have in how to use these supplements and how, like, I feel like it's so confusing. But that's metabolic change in what we put in our body, right? I'm sorry. Go ahead, John.
No, I was going to make a comment. There's a place in Florida called Lithium Springs, or Lithia Springs, rather, and that's been used to treat bipolar. It's an old lithium has as a treatment. Well,
Like a natural spring?
natural spring, and the people there do not have bipolar disorder. Because
Low rates of
rates,
bipolar disorder
yeah.
in Lithium Springs, which is a city or whatnot that has
In
a
a
high amount
small-
of lithium in their.
in the springs from their water source.
You've got to be kidding me
No.
right now.
No.
And for the listening audience, we know that lithium is a medication that is prescribed for bipolar disorders. And what is lithium then? It's a salt.
It's a salt. It's also a metal.
An element.
An element.
An element.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess it's on the table, right?
It's like it's related. It's very close to sodium,
Right.
which is salt. Okay, sodium chloride in a what is it? Anyway, so it's also on the periodic chart. It's very closely related, but it has a different mechanism of action.
So Cirilla,
So salt could be
that's
bad for
setting
you.
you up a little bit for like how do we incorporate this? It's so confusing for people. I think this massive industry of supplements and how it works. I mean, I don't know. Like, what do you do with this? Is that part of the integration that we work towards?
Yes, I think that certainly. I wouldn't try to implement a supplement program without talking to a healthcare professional.
Okay,
I think
big
that's
statement.
important.
Say that again and why?
Taking a look at maybe lab values and seeing if there are any nutritional deficiencies, taking a look at any health conditions that a person might have can certainly be
So you have to get
important
blood panels.
in planning. Yes, in planning a supplement program.
That's fascinating to me.
I have been able to talk to clients without having information, the lab value information, and help them to lead them in for a good routine. But there's some people where it can be very beneficial to look into those lab values and know what's going on.
But what kind of caution do people need to have about that? Because I think people will go on Dr. Google, internet, search this stuff, figure out like what supplements might be good for me and what I want to use. And of course, it's all over the counter. And so I'm actually hearing an introduction, a little bit of caution there.
Well, I would. I think that oftentimes supplements can possibly have interfere with medications that a person could be taking. They are very powerful, and some are more subtly powerful, and some are have extremely powerful impact on the body and metabolism.
Well, your turmeric, for example, has some anticoagulant properties. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So you have to be careful if you're taking something like.
So this is a for example, right?
For example, yeah. For example, if you're taking a blood thinner, for like Eliquis,
You would want to be careful about.
you want to be
turmeric.
very careful. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, or if you have low blood pressure, you don't want to take something that's going to thin your blood even more, and then you might be feeling dizzy or weak and not know why. You might think, "Oh, my condition's just getting worse," and where in fact you just brought in a supplement like turmeric or any other blood pressure lowering supplement that could make you think that you're getting worse when you're really just taking the wrong thing.
Interesting. Yeah.
So there's a need for medicine, allopathic medicine, to sort of interact with, let's say, or dietitians to interact, or nutritionists interact with physicians, for example.
So I told you he has cool words. What is allopathic or what?
Well,
What did you
that's
say? Can you dumb that down for me, bud?
Allopathic is that they're mainly medicine based. In other words, there's a medical model that goes with it, as opposed to, let's say, a model that Cirilla and that we practice, and not medicine, but it's a sense of wholeness and wellness instead of just applying a medical fix.
Okay, I'm
gonna
sure
get
you
a
had
lot of
understood
people
him,
in
Cirilla,
trouble.
but I was sure that
I'm
several in
going
our
to-
audience didn't. And I was like
I'm
lost for a
going to
minute.
get in so much trouble.
No.
So
Well, I mean, dietitians are trained a little bit in about herbal supplements and nutritional supplements. And I don't think that doctors have very much training, but I notice that when I go to the doctor now, he'll talk about certain herbs.
It has increased.
So, yes, it has increased in that bridge that we've been talking about.
Right.
but it's not really either one of our areas of expertise as like an herbalist or something. But I do think that in general, for when a person is starting a supplement program, that it's good to check with a registered dietitian or with their doctor to make sure that they're proceeding with caution.
Gotcha. It's a service. It's a medical intervention when you're talking about dietetic services. So let's circle back a little bit and let's introduce you a little bit more to Gaston County, and you can contact her and help you. You are registered in North Carolina, so if you're outside of North Carolina, people can't contact you, but you're learning from the show. It's helpful to contact a registered dietitian in your area and really around the world, truly. So, but for those of us in Gaston County particularly, what got you into the dietitian world and, got you started on all this? Like, why did you do this?
Well, I definitely have a natural passion for helping people to attain a higher level of health. And so I love to help people create a plan and execute their plan and work with them so that they're feeling a better level of wellness and a more vibrant health. And I have a strong confidence in the impact of food to be able to do that. So that's the reason why I became a dietitian.
That is super cool. When did you kind of catch wind of it?
High school. I started to really
Okay.
become aware that I wanted to know what was going on with people. In fact, I learned how to look into people's irises and see what was going on with the constitution of their body. That was one of the first things that I learned. And then I learned...
In high school?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's called iridology. And that led me into the fascination with how nutrition actually affects our health. So it was a progressive journey from there.
Okay, John, I got to know more, right? Like,
Oh, boy.
Well, you got me. I don't know anything about this.
you're not going to answer this question.
Okay.
John, what do you get what can you figure out or look at when you look in somebody's irises? You're not going to be able to answer that. You're telling me?
No, whether you're alive or dead, I
Okay,
guess you
that's
could do that. That's about all I could
That's about the limits I have. So I got to hear more. Sure. What?
So it's some people would consider iridology a pseudoscience. So
Okay.
it's not something that I
Yeah.
practice now in conjunction with being a registered dietitian.
Okay,
even
good,
though
fair
I have,
point, important point. Right?
Yes, I have practiced it in the past, and I am certified as an iridologist because I just really felt like it was something that I wanted to explore. And I don't think I would be the same dietitian without having that really deep knowledge of the biochemical processes of the body and how all the systems work together. And that's what I gained from iridology. But you can gain insight into all the biochemical, it's okay. So iridology is basically like a window into the body. It's like if you were trying to look into a window of a house, you can see a certain portion of the house through looking in through that particular window.
That makes total sense. I
Yeah.
love metaphors.
Yeah, and there's certain things that you can tell about the body by looking into the iris. Maybe certain way that the fibers are arranged. You can tell things about the structure and function of tissues that are reflexively related to those areas of the iris.
So in a way, is it like an acupuncture in terms of? It's not that obviously, but there's a sense
Exactly.
that
Where I
it's
went to,
system.
John.
It's
Yes.
systems.
It's a reflexive relationship that I think that's what you're referring to is the parallel
Okay.
between iridology and acupuncture, in that but you can see a lot about the digestion and the nervous system and different some things about the biochemistry of what's going on in the body with blood sugar and things like that.
Now it's interesting. So when you say some would consider it to be a pseudoscience, I've we listen to a podcast John and I do, Skeptic's Guide, right? And they really dig into some of these types of things, and they've like basically all but debunked the effects of acupuncture and whatnot, right? For instance.
I've
And
heard those
so-
debunkings, and I don't believe it.
It really? Okay. Well, yeah.
If you've had acupuncture yourself.
I would not want to let people stick a bunch of needles in me all over my body. Probably not gonna happen. Like, no. But
Has anyone else?
have you done?
Oh, no, I haven't.
Neil, his wife has.
Oh, it's
Did she like that?
I think it helped her.
You think it helped her?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's profoundly powerful.
Profoundly powerful, she says. Okay.
So it's
Interesting.
it's not just a placebo effect.
Well,
that.
placebo effects are real.
But definitely.
So
Right.
whatever creates the change, I'm all for it.
Right. Right. Well, let's laser in a little bit more in the integration, right? So, in mental health practice, which is what Metrolina psychotherapy does, and therapists around our country and world, having dietetics being embedded specifically with, like, mental health per se, how does that integrate with anxiety issues and depression issues and issues with I won't even go to personality disorders. That's a whole different kind of thing, right? But yeah,
Yeah,
she's
I
shaking
know.
her head like, no, we're
No,
not
we
going there.
can't.
But you see what I'm saying? Like,
Yes,
bipolar
absolutely.
and schizophrenia, even maybe like real struggles that people have with diagnostic condition syndrome related realities in mental health. Dietetics coming alongside that. How does that work?
Okay, well, first of all, the latest research is consistently supporting the strong correlation between nutrition and optimal mental health treatment and results and support. So that's the first thing. And I think that with that in mind, that certainly incorporating nutrients that are known to support, perhaps like, for example, the making of certain levels of neurotransmitters in the body that affect mood and thinking and our ability to learn and in our general feeling of overall well-being. Nutrients and the quality of a person's diet can really affect the making and the levels of those neurotransmitters in the brain.
So you're kind of really the simple way that I'm hearing that, funneling it down a little bit, sort of relates to like brain health and how we know a lot of the science behind mental health. At least I'm experienced with that. The limbic system, serotonin, dopamine, like, the body's process of what we feel and what those chemicals do and how that works. So you're embedding sort of like brain health into this process through nutrition input or
Brain, yes,
Yeah.
brain function.
gut function,
And yes,
right?
brain function, just your general neurotransmitters and feel good hormones, and also, yes, your gut health and that gut brain axis and the quality of the population of your your biome.
And I think that's been connected for some time now with the idea of developing dementia is not having healthy gut biomes. So
Dementia's been studied to see as
Yes.
one of the big areas where this impacts. Okay.
Impacts it. Yeah, negatively.
Interesting. Is that not that I'm discrediting you, John, but
That's
I'm curious
okay.
what does that sound so in your experience, Sorella?
Oh, absolutely.
Of course, you're right, John. You always are. You
Our
always is.
microflora definitely directly affects
What? I'm sorry.
our microflora directly affects our brain, and they communicate through the body with each other, our brain and our entire GI tract. But there's also some evidence that shows that there's a correlation or there's a connection between our cardiovascular system and our ability to have a very healthy and plentiful flow of blood to the brain. And so there's a diet called the MIND diet, MIND.
D.
Yes.
Okay. And what is that?
And it's an acronym actually that stands for Mediterranean Intervention for Neurodegenerative Delay.
See?
Way over my head, John.
No. Yeah. This actually, there's been a lot of studies for the Mediterranean diet.
Yeah.
And so they've gone in and a little bit applied a bit of rocket science into it as well. And so they're rocket medicine, so to speak. But so this is very preventative, and it's also a lifestyle, and that people they basically follow this for the rest of their lives, this diet.
Okay, so let's frame this around again the idea of the statement, right? Treat your food as your medicine, or someday you will treat your medicine like your food, and correlate that around this idea, like how do these things relate? I don't know. My head just got blown a little bit and I'm trying to track it back because this is depthy stuff. I feel like. So the confusing nature of diets around the world. You're mentioning Mediterranean diet, right? And
Right.
then we have the low carbs thing. The what's it called? Everyone knows of
Atkins.
the Atkins diet
Or the keto.
Keto, and people do these all these. It is so much to try to incorporate this in. I'm curious to look at what you would say from a registered dietitian's perspective with, all the diets we try and all the specifics that we get into this and all the confusion that people have and the stress that people get into with that. What is your take on that whole world of diets per se?
Oh boy, that's a very big question. But
yeah.
I would say that the first thing that comes to mind is to really rely on what the evidence is saying that comes out of scientific research.
Yeah, but they all seem to contradict, or I don't know.
But I think
there's a lot out there that just goes.
yes, but overall, there's going to be most of the time there's going to be an overall impression that you can get to help to lead your clients to be able to understand what the evidence is saying and to kind of weed through different nutrition claims.
Oh, no. I'm not doing that. It's way out of my scope. I'm referring them to you. We're not doing this in my sessions. Seriously, because it is over my head. I would not feel comfortable. I need to learn a lot more. So,
yes.
Yeah.
But as far as fad diets go, I think that as long as you're not, there's many different diets that can fit, and it really we have to explore and individualize for each client what makes them feel the best, because certain people just don't handle carbs as good, and it really makes them feel bad to eat them,
Right.
even if they're not processed and refined carbs. Maybe even eating unrefined carbs and ancient grains still makes them feel really tired.
So the gluten
and gluten, but there's a lot of misconceptions around gluten.
Yeah.
Where people,
Well, we all know somebody had trouble with chicken, right?
yes, we do.
Okay, chicken. Like, who would have thought that would do something in your body? So the cool thing that
Yeah.
I'm really tapping in
Very
here
individual.
or
and
red meat.
excited about.
For
Sure.
example, you get bitten by a tick and you
Heck
Lyme disease, but
yeah.
it also can cause you to have problems with
Absolutely.
red meat.
Absolutely terrifying. So the thing that I really enjoyed working about with you, Cyrilla, was like, I didn't get a sense, and maybe you picked up just on my personality because, I think I told you, like, don't get me weighing foods, don't get me measuring cups and ounces. I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy, right? But I feel like that was your perspective on food and wellness anyway, in really this individualized approach. Like, what is going on with your body? Again, one of the questions, guys, listening, what is your relationship with food? And I look at the emotional aspects in my work with people in therapy, but there's a physical aspect of this that you're dialed into as well, right?
The emotional and the physical. Certainly, I think I'm tapping into what you're trying to ask about. Many people are following rules and restrictions and regulations around their food that are really limiting them in their experience and in their relationship with food, and it's creating a stress in their lives. Whereas if they allow themselves to know what foods are beneficial for them as individuals and learn how to incorporate those foods into their lives, then in a balanced way, and eating a variety of foods in the way that all foods fit, as long as certain foods are only in moderation. And so not having these strict rules around food.
See, I love that. Because those strict rules, I think, have an emotional impact.
Oh,
Let me make
causes
this statement,
great
right?
deal of anxiety
Great
and
anxiety.
self esteem issues, and one gets very upset about, let's say, well, I didn't lose this amount of weight, and then they get depressed.
It's
and
crushing to
yeah.
your soul.
Yeah.
When you feel these struggles. And I'll tell you, I think that gets, as I'm getting a little older, we haven't made an age joke yet, John, but as your body really
just
changes, right?
Yeah.
As you get a little older and as that begins to develop, but even, as teenagers, your body's massively changing and whatnot. And I bet there's stuff that you would be able to speak to about all of that. So again, the idea here is I've been thinking about for many years in my practice with people when we're working on body image issues and, obesity, and we're going to talk about compulsive behavior here in a little bit. I think, the relationship that you have with food emotionally, but there's the whole other side physically that is all individualized. And the more and more I think we researched, we'll find that that's the...
And it's centered, so much of our eating is centered around what we do as families or individuals, and so we're just culturally,
as well.
And so it's very tough, I think.
And so, as a registered dietitian, you really work with people to weed through all of this, right?
Yes, we take it all into consideration,
Yeah.
a person's entire lifestyle, and just really come up with solutions and help them to reach where they're trying to go.
And I can tell you, from working with you, it really did, and maybe it's just your style, but I suspect in a relationship with dietitians, period, it helps you to deal with the emotional calm down about what you're trying to do. Like, I'm not bad. I'm not doing something wrong. I'm not, give you a simple idea. I oftentimes feel guilty if I don't finish my plate. Like, my kids are really helping me with this one. I have the finish your plate syndrome, right? And I'm working hard to get that out of my system, get that out of my emotional tapes to play. And it helps when you're having a relationship with a registered dietitian, a Sorilla, to work through that. That's part of what you do, right?
Good, yes.
So there's no judgment. And I what I'm hearing from you is that your approach would be non-judgmental and would be just taking people where they are and accepting them. And so if a person has some, let's say, 100 pounds overweight, for example, you would take them without judgment and sort of coach them.
Yes.
But in a very positive way that they could and provide education and that type of counseling that in terms of portion control and eating.
Yes, and helping them to accept themselves. So is
Before
one of the biggest
you go
steps.
on, I just want to interject real quick, right? Like, we have a comment on YouTube that says, I hate the word obesity. That's what somebody just commented, right? And it's like, yeah, what you were saying. So go ahead.
Yes, self-acceptance, and so that trying to get rid of those feelings of guilt and shame that can lead to punishment and self-punishment and cravings and all of these emotions that can go into the eating process. Whereas when a person gains a better understanding of themselves and begins to accept themselves, then we can begin the journey of
Right. I
building a better relationship with food.
Right. I have a client that has a couple of them actually that have some very mixed feelings, obviously, about their relationship with food. They, a lot of times, for example, if they grew up in a rural area or they had a grandparent and that there was a lot of food that was on the table, and it was basically for somebody living on a farm doing manual labor all the time, and then you come there's that cooking and the meals, and then there's at the same time, well, you've put on some weight, and yet at the same time they give you the extra food, and so you get
shame.
shame. Yeah.
I'm curious, Cirilla, right? Like, so, and we'll be learning more of this working closely with you here in our practice, which I'm excited about. But, like, I'm curious along these lines of, like, the diagnostic that we deal with, John, which goes into a little segment here of talking about compulsive behavior in a moment. But, like, how do you work with anorexia or bulimia? What would be your plan when I refer to you somebody who has eating disorders, is what we call in mental health, to work with them? How would you go about that?
Well, certainly an individualized approach
I just walked
is
in
going
that,
to
right?
be super important.
Right.
And so everyone's going to be different, but some of the components that we will tie in is education and giving them some training around food. Often we can even eat with our clients to coach them in meal time, and that can be very transformative. Mindfulness techniques that they can build, so to help them build their relationship with food. There's a lot of different tools and strategies that we can use.
So this really kind of is, for instance, an area where, I mean, you do psychotherapy, which is different, and you do dietetics, which is different. But with anorexia,
They're
and
congruent.
bulimia, there's a lot of parallel congruence. That's what I'm hearing?
And I think that comprehensive approach, where a person is getting support from multiple levels, could be a great part of why this combination is more successful.
I just got that, yeah.
With incorporating a dietitian in too, because it's added support.
Yeah, I was just thinking there's a rewiring of one's brain.
Oh, yeah.
And so you still have
100%.
the original tracks that let's say the compulsive eating or the emotional eating or those patterns.
Those
that
are
you learn.
terms that are in the therapy world, right?
Right, but that it reduces gradually as you retrain, you strengthen new pathways in the brain and new ways of thinking and having a relationship with food, for example.
Yes, I see what you're saying.
And there's a high correlation to what we do. Because I'm just thinking about that. Like, I've worked with anorexia and bulimia through the years as clinical diagnoses that I'm qualified to diagnose, right? And then we deal with all the emotional realities, and it's amazing to me. Like, I've always been privately, I guess now publicly around the world, amazed with like anorexia, where people can be so rail thin, like bad thin. This is a terrible syndrome condition that people have where their perceptions are actually of being fat. And it just gets into this compulsive eating disorder world. It is a tough deal. And so I was curious, like I said, like how you work with that as a dietitian, right?
I'm starting to see more men that are developing bulimia.
Really?
Yeah. So
Say more about that. I'm curious. I'm not dialed into that very much yet at all.
Well, I don't know. It's as much as that we'd had when you get into therapy and you do a little bit of digging, and then the person actually starts to talk about, or he talks about his eating and his eating patterns and how he would cause himself to not just he but the number of people that they could cause themselves to throw up,
which
or-
is the primary
Very-
symptom of
yeah.
bulimia.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
And so it's not just disordered eating; it's in itself or selective eating, withdrawing how much they're eating of a certain thing. It's where they actually gag themselves, or they'll take some sort of medication that would cause themselves to purge themselves.
That's fascinating. I'm so appreciative, John, of this moment because part of what's awesome about this show, right? We figure this out together. I am going to come clean right now and own the fact that as we have issues like that, I think we as professionals can be blind to certain issues.
Yeah.
And that has just not crossed over my radar screen. And I'm sure that as you say that, I'm thinking, well, I haven't asked. I haven't explored. I don't know what eating behaviors a particularly male client would have in relation to that. I don't, now I won't be as
Couple
much
of
anymore. So thank you.
My super buff clients, a couple of that.
Yeah.
They have
I'm not surprised
bulimic-
at all. I'm disappointed with
bulimic
myself that
behavior.
I haven't picked
Yeah.
up on that. But yeah, absolutely. Because this is a behavior, guys. I mean, like when this compulsivity issue in therapy that we deal with, let alone we talked about addiction a lot lately with our shows. Eating addictions are real, which is severe compulsive behavior, not just emotional eating and whatnot. I need to ask. You need to explore that more. So that's awesome. So as it relates to addiction, let me kind of do the same thing with bulimia and anorexia. How will us clinicians refer to and interact with you on something like addiction? And you may not have come across that much at all. I know a lot of professionals don't. But do you work with addiction much? Eating addictions per se?
I have.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say much, but I have had several clients that we've worked together for a very long span of time.
Yeah.
And I think that dietetic services can be extremely helpful to help these people navigate through their food addiction. And it's a different kind of addiction because we have to eat. And so it's not, it's really helping them to build a different type of relationship with food and to restore their ability to be a natural eater.
Ooh, that's a big statement there at the end. Helping, how did you just put that? Helping people to return to becoming a natural eater. Say more about
Restore their ability to
Restoring
become a natural eater. Mhm.
that. Say more about that.
So, being able to tune into our hunger and fullness cues is one of the
fullness cue.
things that
I'm hungry right now. Okay,
I'm hungry too.
you might hear my stomach growl.
I shoot right through still, Sorella. I'm sorry. I do. I'm working on it, man. I shoot right through the hunger cues. I'm like, matter of fact, my wife looked at me not too long ago. She's like, Chris, I think you need to eat more food than you need to eat. And I'm like, so, but I think we interrupted you. Keep going.
Helping them to let go of the emotions of guilt and shame. Stop to help them to adopt strategies where they're not adhering as tightly to rules and restrictions and regulations and all of these aspects that take away from us to being a natural eater.
That's liberating.
It is.
To me.
I mean, just even feeling it inside when you compare the two ways of feeling and approaching nourishing your body on a daily basis, it just feels
It's
totally
really a helping
different.
profession, isn't it?
It really
Definitely.
is. Mm-hmm.
What do you mean, John? Go a little further with your reaction there. I'm just curious if you're willing.
Well,
It's liberating.
it's liberating to know that you don't have to eat, and you don't that you don't have to be tied. You're aware of your emotions, but you don't have to be driven by them. Or in a sense that some folks are emotional eaters. I think a lot of us.
I think most
It's a
all of us.
well, and I think the pandemic.
Can we say that emotions are a part of our relationship with food?
Yeah,
Therefore,
yeah,
were emotional.
I think there was a lot of anxiety during the pandemic,
yeah.
and people were. So it wasn't
Listen,
just
give somebody
the
a daggum
isolation.
box of donuts and look at their face, and you'll see the emotion, right?
Oh yeah.
You know, like, oh, should I eat all these? Should I say no? I'm going to eat one. I don't want to.
Well,
be
we
rude.
had a big box
I know. It just happened
in our office. It just somebody we had
Thank
the
you.
donut.
You know who you are.
Yeah.
We enjoyed
Not to
them.
make you feel guilty.
No, they were great.
Yeah.
But it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we just had a lot of fun emotion with that. So, but can we restore fun, by the way, with food?
Mm-hmm.
And how do we, again, what is your relationship with food? The emotional part I'm used to really thinking a lot about. The medical part I'm not as much, but we've known for a long time that there's a lot of emotions in this experience of eating. Like, for instance, you said, sometimes we'll eat with our clients, Cirilla, which is super cool. I can tell you, I learned early on in my career, we were doing some in-home family work. And I was pretty young at the time, new in the field, and he was our supervisor. And so we were doing in-home family therapy with, kind of troubled teens and whatnot. And so we would have meetings that we would have, and it was a lot of learning, and they were helping us, and we would go do the in-home services. So one of the times that we were meeting, the supervisor guy, whatever his name was, I don't remember. I'll call him Mark. Mark taught us. He's like, hey, I tried something. I'm like, oh, cool, what'd you do? He's like, I just went to the store and I bought some ingredients and I brought them to the family as an activity, and we made homemade pizzas together. And he made a point that I will never forget in my life. He's like, when you break bread with somebody, the emotional dynamics and the rapport that you get and the vulnerability that's there almost on a biological level or the human level, that it changes the relationship. You can become much more joined together and work.
Well, I saw that in
Breaks barriers down.
My early years as a minister, and I was up in rural West Virginia, up on
Great state,
yes, wild and wonderful West Virginia. But I was in the Allegheny Mountains, and it was very old area. I mean, it was.
Oh, let me tell you something. The Allegheny Mountains and the West Virginia valleys, brother. They're great people, but very distrusting of outsiders. Is where I think you're going, right?
Oot and the boot and all that. I mean, they even pronounced about differently.
Oh yeah, boy.
But the thing was, they were distrustful. But you break bread,
changes
with them,
the dynamic.
Changes it because you become one of them.
Right.
You integrate, and hospitality is very important, and we've gotten away from that. We do everything by drive-throughs now. And,
oh, boy.
Yeah, so we don't break bread together. And so you could, your friend, your colleague elicited change by doing something that was ultimately creative, and that is making a pizza pie together.
Yes.
And that...
Powerful.
So they were affirming that family, and they come together and they build something together, make something.
Right. The creative experience, the shared experience, the communal experience, the boundary setting of we're together. I mean, oh my God, we could just go on. I mean, there's so many dynamics that kind of go into this, and a dietitian's right in the middle of that, right? So it's cool that you use that. I mean, I'm not surprised at all in that regard. So where do we go? I mean, I'm aware of the time, and we want to wrap up here, but I don't know what we want to miss. I mean, Cirilla, let me kind of give you, with time to go here, like an open-ended kind of component of is there anything we didn't add or things that you think are important, to let people know, especially those of Gaston County, they can come help receive your services about this, right? Like,
you're going to help them make a pizza.
Yeah. Metro is going to turn into a pizza shop. I don't know. That's so awesome.
I do love to share quick and easy recipes. I think that's really helpful. And I do grocery store tours and just really whatever is necessary to help someone.
What do you mean grocery store tours? I don't
That's
know if people know.
Integrative. That's
go
wonderful.
further with that. Like, because I don't know if people
I've taken
realize
my
that they can receive that service, right?
Yes, I've taken my clients through the grocery store and trained them on how to shop and read labels and
That is so
the
confusing.
whole process of how to choose their foods, to anywhere from that to doing meal planning and meal preparations, and that's all fun stuff.
That's a part of these sessions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It can be if that's what they need.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
I am
I get the feeling that she's not a drill sergeant. Yeah.
totally not.
No.
That's what's listen, again, that's what's so cool. And I suppose that in your trainings, dietitians, like I know that's part of what makes you awesome at what you do, and I mean that to say that I can say that because I experienced it, and I mean that as a compliment. But that's got to be part of your training. I mean, is that part of what dietitians learn, or is that actually part of your training?
No, it's. I mean, I think
It is
everyone.
not.
That's what you were
Okay,
talking
interesting.
about with the art. Everyone has their own different style of practice, and so I just really enjoy working with people and helping to meet them where they're at, and making small changes, and that are very manageable instead of doing giant overhauls that can be very confusing.
And overwhelming.
Yes.
So when New Year's Eve resolutions fail because there's like, well, I'm going to lose 50 pounds in 3 months and then I'm going
Right.
to starve myself and,
Sustainability is definitely the key.
yeah.
Because you want to be, in the long run, you want to be able to maintain that weight for the rest of your life. And so if it's so onerous, so difficult for you, then there's no joy.
There's no hope.
There's no hope. You're right.
It's frustration and irritation and downright anger or rage. Again, maybe we focus the most on this particular question that we started out, but what is your relationship with food? I mean, can we say that food actually can begin to make you rageful and frustrated and overwhelmed and confused, right? Like you can get this way, particularly when you get all these messages from the world and commercialism and eat my product, do my diet, that my supplement, like, holy
It can be
cow.
very confusing.
And I guess I have one last thought, and that is that we've got you have here in your credentials about body positivity, but is there a point where, let's say, well, I weigh 500 pounds and I'm okay with that. Is that okay or not? Or is that something? I'm putting you on the spot.
Well, I think it
apologize.
would depend
It's
on-
not healthy.
I think it would depend on what their level of health is, and possibly are they exercising? Where in their lives everyone can improve in their lives in certain areas to create a better health and better
Yeah.
well-being, and a better, even more positive relationship with food. And so I don't think that it's someone that usually if someone is 500 pounds, there are going to be multiple genetic factors that are going to be playing into
And the guilt and or whatever, because they're going to get these messages. Why can't I be like this other image?
Well, I think that they're also probably going to be out of breath when they try to walk
Yeah.
upstairs and things like that. And they're going to, people are going to want to have healthy aging and to feel their very best. So that would probably be why someone that's 500 pounds would be
Motivated.
seeking my services.
So it's a positive change to achieve positive, not as a result of shame, but also of acceptance of oneself where one is, and then adapting and adopting more healthy lifestyle.
gradually and over time, more and more into long-term changes.
Okay.
Long-term, which is why and how a registered dietitian can be super helpful. Again, let's begin to wind down and taxi us in for a landing, unless there's anything else you want to cover, Cirilla, to get out. You think we did a good job? I mean, we could
Thank
talk
you
for
so
hours
much.
about
yes,
this, right?
I got to talk about my favorite thing
It-
with some of my favorite people. So
you
this
really
is
do
very
have a
wonderful.
passion about it, which is awesome. So, I mean,
I'm just blown away that she goes to supermarkets and
With people.
with her
Yeah,
clients. Yeah.
that's it's the coolness of preventative medicine that we're beginning to learn as valuable. And I predict that this is going to grow, and which is why I'm excited about a whole new line of service that I've never been a part of, so that I don't have to ask you how they can contact you, because I could tell them. Metrolina Psychotherapy Associates. We are 704-461-8253. I don't talk about our own practice very often on the show because I just don't. It's not the point of the show, but I am today because it is a point of something new that's out there that I don't know that there are many people to go to outside of, you said some medical groups get these types of services and such. So I'm super excited that we're going to be able to do this stuff
Me too.
together at
Thank you.
Metrolina, right? So let's get out of here today. Listen, your relationship with food, the experiences that you've had with your diet and your nutrition can be a huge integrated part, I hope you've heard and learned today, with your mental health care as well as your medical health care. So find a registered dietitian near you. They'll help you to find wellness, to sort through the confusing nature of everything that's out there in the research and in disinformation and information out about nutrients and supplements and diets and all the things. Like, don't be overwhelmed with this. Reestablish a connection, a positive image with your body. Work with a dietitian to get healthy and well, as we all say. Stay well. We'll see you next week. Take care.